Okay, so I went ahead and pulled up this old cartoon house that we were using, some weeks ago, just to kind of show you a couple more of the Arnold's light settings that we can play with here. So I'm going to create what's called a sky dome light here. So if I come up to Arnold, go to lights, sky dome light, okay? So what this does is this creates a sphere, essentially, that I'm going to blow this up quite large, right? So what this does is this provides light source coming from all 360 degrees, right? A sky dome, right? A fully encapsulated map. So if I hit 7 here in the viewport, we can see the whole thing is lit up, right? If I come into the renderer and go to Arnold, you'll just see a better modeled rendered version of the house. But right now the default light is white. We haven't changed anything, but you can see the light is coming from all directions, okay? And what's really cool about this is you can map, right? Just like you would like the materials and the shaders. I can map a texture or an image or a light onto this 360-degree sphere, right? And I'll show you what I mean by this. So let me come back to the viewport here. So right now it's just white, but I mean I can change this to right any other color I want. But what I can also do is I can apply right a shader to it. So if I click here, right, it's showing me all these different things that I can apply to this map. So if I'm gonna just do checker here. So if we do checker, we can see, right, it applies that whole checker pattern. Now, when you're working with Arnold renderers and lightings, like sometimes Command Z, Control Z undoing things can cause Maya to crash up. I've experienced that a couple times already. So every time I do, I'm just going to delete that Skydome light and create a new one just so I can show you, right, just multiple versions of what you can do. So the cool thing about this is you can map an HDRI image, a high dynamic resolution image, to this entire surface to get a realistic scene, right? And I'll show you, let me show you a great resource for that. So if you come to this website here, Polyhaven, and I'll link this as well. This is a great library of resources and images of different models, check textures, and then these right here, HDRI. So go ahead and let's go to this site and we'll click on HDRIs and I'll show you what they are. And I'm going to just click on skies just because you can click whatever you want, but so skies, right? So what this is showing you is that this image is showing you a 360-degree view wraparound, but all laid out on a flat plane. So let's just say, I don't know, I'll pick one right here. And here, right, we see the whole image and then you can download. You might want to double check these licenses, right? And just go through. I'll talk a bit more on Creative Commons licensing and what they mean, but you want to look for make sure you're just not using a license that is requiring you to, you might have to give attribution, you might have to just list it public domain. But for now, for educational purposes, this is not really something you have to worry about, but maybe I'll talk more about this in another video, but I'm going to go ahead and just download this and I'll show you how to bring it into Maya, okay? Okay, so this is what that full image looks like. Great, nice and beautiful. Okay, so here within Maya, once I click on here onto the shader, and then what I want to do if I have an HDRI image, I'm going to come to File. So this creates just a file editor here. And then here, image name. This is where I'd want to select that image that I downloaded. Okay, so that went to my downloads. And I think it was this Industrial Sky Pure Set. I have a couple on here I was messing around with. But if I click there, yep, and then I hit open. So what that does is that applies, right, that mapping of that sky, right? And it uses the light sources in the image itself, right? So because this kind of looks like the dominant area, the Arnold shader is going to interpret this as being, where the stronger light source is coming from. And I'll show you. I'll go into the renderer view here. So because it's a nice big image, right? The rendering here might take a little bit of time here, but let's see what this looks like once this is rendered out. Okay. So, yeah, any changes, like I said, any changes I do here, It's going to have to think. But within the setting here, or sorry, within the mapping that we just did, right, we can, let me wait a second here. Okay, let me just come back to viewport so it's not. So I'm back in the viewport. I can also make changes to this file, right? I can change, I can brighten the intensity, right? The resolution, right? You generally want to set this to the largest dimension of that image. So I know that image was like 4,000 by 2,000. So the resolution, I could put that up to 4,000, right? That's going to be the size of the longest dimension, okay? And then there's all kinds of other things here when it comes to visibility, right? I can change, I can make it so the camera, right, won't pick up as much of that sky. Transmission, diffuse. So diffuse is the kind of the natural. Let me show you here. Let me go into this. So diffuse, if I set this to 0 and set specular to 0, then this house is just going to be, there's not going to be any light on this house at all. Because specular is the highlights, diffuse is kind of the natural, the default lighting. So yeah, do you see how this whole thing just turned black because diffuse, like where the light is being reflected off of, and then the highlights, that's what these two mean. So you can, again, you can play around with things like this on your own time. But the most important thing to learn here is how to bring in those HDRI images into the Skydome light, right? Pretty cool. Okay, so the other thing that I want to show you here, let me get rid of this. Sorry, my computer's acting a little slow. Okay, so let me come back to here. So the other thing I want to show you is the physical sky. So if I come back to Arnold, and I come to lights, and I come to physical sky. So let's say I don't have an HDRI image, but I still want to give, right, the illusion of a sky. So I can click on physical sky, and this will do much the same thing, is it will bring in this. And Maya just crashed on me. Sorry about that, but due to the power of editing, we're right back where we started here. So I scaled up that physical sky dome, and what this does is it actually kind of just maps a generic rendering of a sky that we can change around and do some things with here, but you can't actually see it until we actually go into the Arnold render view. So I'm going to go ahead and open this, and then I'm just going to hit play right here. So what this does is this just shows me just kind of the default sky, right? It doesn't show up here because, like I said, it's not actually working as a light source. So what we can do here is we can make some changes in real time. So if we come here and we click on this little icon here, this will bring up the properties, and I'll kind of go through what these things mean. So this is if you're just creating your own generic sky and you want to have some control over the atmosphere, this is what you can do here. So turbidity, this is how saturated the air is with particles, right? So the higher this goes, you're going to get kind of a dirtier blue, right? That kind of simulates particles and, just some atmospheric smog. Ground albedo is the reflection of the light that's bouncing off the ground. So you can change this depending on, so like if you were doing like a desert scene, right? We could change this to yellow, right? Which affects the sky a little bit, but it's basically what this is. It's the reflected light that's coming off of things. So depending on the environment that you're in, right? If you were in like a waterscape or you can make changes here that will affect like kind of the general setting of the atmosphere. Okay. Elevation, azimuth, and intensity. These are all pretending like imagining that there's a sun in the sky that you can change the elevation, the rotation. The intensity is obviously going to mean, it's going to affect your brightness. And then things like sky tint, this would actually change the color of the sky. So I don't know if you would actually want to mess with this too much, unless you were doing something, I don't know, on an alien world or whatnot. But that's how you would go about making your own like sky map, right? If you didn't have an HDRI image, okay? So those are some of the cool things you can do with the Skydome and the physical sky, right? Skydome here, physical sky, and right, go ahead and put in some time and practice with these, and right, I'm gonna do the same with some of these here. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this video here, and we're gonna go into more more texture shading, and we'll get to unwrapping as well.